Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a question that seems super simple on the surface, but wow, is it complex? We're asking, what is dance?
Yeah, it seems simple, doesn't it? But, this is a question that philosophers, critics, and artists have been wrestling with for centuries. Is it just, moving to a beat, or is there something deeper going on? Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole debate really boils down to this one core tension. Is dance this raw, powerful, almost primal impulse? That feeling you get where you just have to move? Or is it a skillful, highly refined art form, something you'd see choreographed on a stage? The amazing thing is, it's both. And that pull between the two is exactly what gives dance its power. And this isn't some new debate. Philosophers and critics have been trying to nail down a definition for ages. And what's really interesting is that how they defined it often says more about their time period than it does about dance itself.
Take the ancient Greeks, for example. For a guy like Aristotle, dance wasn't just, pretty movement. It was drama. It was storytelling. It was a way to dig into the human condition. And it was right at the heart of their theater.
Okay, now let's jump forward a bit to the 18th century. You've got ballet master John Weaver, and he sees things totally differently. For him, dance is all about elegance, grace, and pure beauty. It was a perfect reflection of the super formal, buttoned-up courts of his day. And then, bam, we hit the 20th century, and the famous dance critic, John Martin, brings us right back around to that idea of a primal impulse. He basically said, look, at its heart, dance is how we express all that stuff inside us that we just don't have words for. He was a huge champion for the rise of modern dance, which was all about that raw expression. So, okay, if it's this fundamental impulse, what's driving it? Why do we do it? Well, the reasons are buried deep inside our psychology, and even in our own bodies. It really comes down to two big things. First, there's that need for self-expression, right? To let out all these powerful emotions that might be stuck inside. And second, it's just the pure pleasure of it, the joy of moving your body in a way that's special, that's different from just walking down the street. It's that feeling of the stretch, the leap, the rhythm. And this physical release can go to some pretty incredible places, even to a state of transcendence. Dancers can push themselves way past their normal limits, getting into a zone where they can do things that seem almost superhuman. Just think about the famous Sufi whirling dervishes who can spin for hours. But it's not just a personal thing, right? These individual motives scale up in a huge way. Dance isn't just something we do alone. It's a fundamental part of our cultures and societies. And if you look across pretty much any culture on Earth, you'll see dance serving at least one of three big functions. It's used for religious rituals, to connect with the gods. It's used for military preparation, to train soldiers for battle. And of course, it's a huge part of how we connect with each other socially, in courtships, celebrations, you name it.
Just think about courtship dances. They're a way to display your energy, to connect with someone, and a lot of them tap into these really ancient symbols, like the fertility leap. It's pretty amazing. But that raises a question. What happens when this kind of social dance moves off the village green and onto a stage?
Well, once dance became a thing you'd go to a theater to watch, a whole new debate exploded. The big question became, does dance have to tell a story? Or is just the beautiful movement, the spectacle, enough on its own? And this basically split the dance world into two major camps. On one side, you had people like the legendary Martha Graham, who believed dance was pointless unless it expressed something dramatic, a story, a feeling. But on the other side, you had choreographers like George Balanchine, who insisted that the real beauty of dance was in its pure, abstract form. For them, the movement was the message. And Martha Graham, who was a total game changer for modern dance, felt this in her bones. She looked at classical ballet with all its graceful, pretty movements and said, this just doesn't work anymore. It can't express the sharp, nervous, chaotic reality of modern life. So she had to invent a whole new way of moving to capture the world she lived in. Then you have George Balanchine, coming from the complete opposite direction. He's famous for saying, there are no mothers-in-law in ballet. And what he meant was, ballet is its own thing, its own language. You shouldn't try to cram these complicated literary stories into it. For him, the dance itself is the story. So, when you get right down to it, it's all about intent. Think about it. In a wrestling match, the whole point is to score points and win. In a ballet about a fight, the point is to express the idea of conflict. The moves might even look a little similar, but the reason you're doing them, the intent, changes everything.
Okay, so after going through all of this history and all these debates, where does that leave us? Well, we can see pretty clearly that dance is so much more than just moving in a pattern. It's a really complex art form, and for it to work, it needs a few key ingredients. So, what finally turns simple movement into dance? Well, it looks like you need these three things. First, there's intent. The performer has to intend for it to be dance. Second, there's stylization. It has to be more than just everyday movement, right? It's not just walking to the corner store. And third, there's expression. It has to communicate something. Maybe a story, maybe an emotion, or maybe just pure abstract beauty. Which brings us to a really beautiful final thought from the poet Stéphane Mallarmé. He said the dancer is writing with her body. So let me leave you with this. If dance is a language written with muscle and bone instead of ink, what incredible stories are being told all around us that we might be missing just because we're only listening with our ears?